In this video I'm going to talk about the 5 things that I would spend most of my time on if I were to start to play the piano today. And after that I will share with you 2 bonus points. These are bonus because they will not cost you extra time. It's just something you can implement in your practice, and it will make your practice more effective and your musical development more effective. My name is Lars and I'm a professional pianist and piano teacher. And I like to share with people like you how to learn the piano more effectively, how to think about piano playing in a different way so that you will go much faster to the level where you like to go. I started to play the piano when I was 15, and that's very late. I started really from zero, but I was fascinated from the very first moment. What I'm going to share with you now are the 5 elements which brought me from zero to less than 4 years later, 3.5 years later, to the level of doing entrance examination at the conservatory and became a student, a professional piano student, with a pupil of Arthur Rubinstein. But I really worked very hard for it. But not just my fingers at the piano, I was working on my whole musical development, because it goes hand in hand. You cannot separate the piano from the music, and you cannot, as a pianist, separate the music from the piano. So here are the 5 things that I was spending most of my time on, and I would recommend anyone to spend their time on that if you want to make progress fast. The first thing might seem very obvious, but it's not always obvious, because you need to bring in some strategy in that, and that is to choose piano pieces that will develop your playing. You make already a very good step when you start to choose pieces from composers that really knew the piano and knew the instrument so well. They knew really how to write for the piano. And if you learn pieces from these composers, you will make a much better progress. Composers like Schumann, Mendelssohn, Tchaikovsky, even Chopin. There are some easier Chopins. Mozart, of course, Beethoven, sonatinas of Clementi, and also Burgmüller, Stefan Heller. These are all composers who knew the instrument, who knew how to write for it. Plenty to choose from, and I would be working on 3 pieces, but 3 pieces of a different style. First of all, a piece of Baroque, Bach. He wrote plenty of pieces for beginners. The Klavierbuch des Anna Magdalena Bach. It's a compilation made by Bach. The little preludes and fugues. These are maybe one step after that. And then we have the inventions. And then we have the Wohltemperiertes Klavier. And second, I would choose a sonatina or a sonata. In the beginning, for beginners, there are plenty of sonatinas from Clementi. Beethoven wrote 2 nice sonatinas. You can choose some easier pieces of Mozart. And as a third piece, I would choose something from the Romantical or even later period. And this we have Schumann, Tchaikovsky, Mendelssohn, Kabalevsky wrote many children's pieces. Even Prokofiev wrote children's pieces, and Shostakovich. It's a little bit more difficult to read, perhaps, so it's maybe for intermediate beginners. And there's so much more. Walter Carroll, these beautiful little pieces, these idols, he wrote many of them. Then we come to the second element, and that is exercises. Exercises for the fingers, but also exercises to develop your arm movement. The arm movements help the fingers. Of course, we have to develop our finger technique to have faster, more flexible and stronger fingers. But the arm helps the fingers, and the arm also helps to create a better and more beautiful sound. It will make the piano playing much more fluent. There are plenty of books with exercises, but all of these are a little bit one-sided. They have something missing there. With the exception of the exercises of Johannes Brahms, the 51 exercises. These are really very good exercises, but they are also quite difficult, even too very difficult. So they are for the advanced students. I can make you a whole long list of it. But the exercises that I can recommend are the exercises I made myself, Super Fingers, and these are exercises that are designed to develop your finger technique and fundamental arm techniques. These are 4 parts. The first part is for beginners to intermediate, and then the second part will be more difficult, the third part more difficult, and the fourth part will be transcendental. They will be very, very difficult. But the first book I would recommend you as a beginner, you will learn there a complete fundament of piano technique. Check the link in the description. Now we get to the third element, etudes. Yes, etudes. Etudes are not exercises. Etudes are piano pieces that focus on 1 or 2 main techniques, and they are worked out in a more practical situation, like they would occur in just normal piano pieces. And you have technical etudes, melodical etudes, and then later on you have the concert etudes, because eventually the etude became a fashion to write. All the composers needed to write some etudes, and they had Chopin and Liszt and later Debussy and so on. But they are very difficult. They are not yet for beginners. The difference between them is you have to treat them as real music. You can still develop your technique with it. You cannot leave them unfinished. But when you take, for example, a Czerny etude, you can leave it unfinished. You can work on it until you feel, I got my benefit from this one, and I go to the next one. I wouldn't stay for months with the same Czerny etude. But I would learn many of them. A whole bunch of etudes you can choose from. If you like me to make a video of all the etudes for beginners, if you like me to make a video like that, then let me know in the comments. Then we get to element number 4, scales. All the scales, and as early as possible. You should really, in your first weeks of starting to play the piano, you should learn the scales. It's not about piano technique only. If you want to understand chords, if you want to understand musical theory, if you want to be able to read with all the black keys written, all the key signatures, you have to memorize and know the scales. You have to know that immediately when I say, the scale of E, even over 1 octave, you have to have them ready in your fingers. Don't treat them just as exercises, because if you want to just for developing your fingers, they are more effective exercises than scales to do that. But it doesn't mean you should dismiss scales. No, you should really know them. And you should feel them in your system. When you read the score and you see, let's say, 5 flats, you should immediately translate that in your fingers to which black keys. Then we get to element number 5, that is chords and intervals. Actually, intervals and chords. First you learn the intervals. You have to really know and understand all the intervals and to be able to sing them, to reproduce them, so that you start to recognize them always. If you play this, that this is a major chord, and this is a major third and a minor third, and that builds to a major chord, and this is a minor chord. You have to recognize the sound, to be able to sing the notes and recognize it. Same for a diminished chord, 2 minor thirds. You also have to learn that this is a diminished fifth, sounds the same than an augmented fourth. Perfect fifths. And then when you make the inversions of the chords, that you also understand how that all works. If you want to understand and read music fast, you have to know the chords. You have to know the scales, and you have to know the chords and the intervals. So the first bonus point I can give you is sing everything what you play. when you're practicing, to sing the melody that you are playing and to hear yourself what you're doing. Like this you can do better phrasing, a better expression with crescendi and diminuendi and so on. But also it will help you develop your inner ear better. And you don't have to sing professionally, but you should sing the right notes in tune. And then we come to the second bonus, and that is to read loud the notes. When you start to learn a new piece, you start to read the piece first aloud. So that when you read all the score, that you quickly can name the notes, because it will develop the reading skills in your brain. Then you have to be able to recognize the intervals that you play and the chords. The more you learn the intervals and the chords, the more you start to recognize that in the music, while you're working on the piece, you will start to memorize faster and quicker the music. Plus, you start to understand the musical intention, because you start to see there is a structure in it. And at the same time, you start to recognize the intervals better by ear. When you recognize the intervals by ear and the chords, you will recognize mistakes faster and you can react immediately when you play a mistake. We all make mistakes when we practice, but the difference is with someone who makes a progress and someone who doesn't, is that someone who makes a progress reacts on the mistakes and works on them and improves them and doesn't repeat the mistakes over and over. And that is a little bit the problem with many students, that they don't react on their mistakes fast enough. And that's because often they don't even hear their mistakes. And the same is for the rhythm. You have to count the rhythm. Count aloud from the beginning. For me, I have a little inner metronome that goes automatically in my mind when I work. I very fast grasp the right rhythm unless it's very complex, and sometimes I have to analyze it and to see, like in the Scriabins and so on, that can be quite challenging. If you enjoyed this video so far, then give me that thumbs up, so that other people also know that this is a good video and they will have benefit from it when watching. When you didn't hit the subscribe button yet, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you will be notified for all my new videos. I will post weekly one or more videos about piano playing, about technique, how to improve your piano playing, how to help you to become a better pianist faster and more effectively.